Hi BookTube, it's Missy, and today I'm here to give you guys my October wrap-up. I hope you guys had a happy Halloween. Oh, no. And amazingly, I read 8 books this month, which I can't wait to tell you guys about. Hello? Hello? Mom? Mom? I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. Oh, Coraline. What do you mean, home? You are home, my dear. Why don't you just let me put some buttons into your eyes? It won't hurt. It feels good. Even the proudest spirit can be broken. With love. I'll give you to the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. You can come out when you're a good girl and you apologize. No. I want to go home. I want to go home. Please. Please. Let me. Hi BookTube, I hope you enjoyed that intro. I really wanted to try something different. I know Coraline doesn't go this horrific, but I figured since the other mother is kind of crazy and wants to put buttons in the eye sockets of Coraline, I figured she would want to put a smile on that face as well. And so I attempted to, you know, make some, some like she was ripping open her face to make it a smile. Anyways, I did the best I could in the short amount of time that I gave myself to do this. Anywho, like I said at the beginning, this is my wrap-up of October for 2020. I did read 8 books, and I'm pretty excited about that. The first one, start with the Shuddering. Hopefully I am in frame. I can't see through these buttons. I mean, I can a little bit, but it's pretty much blurry. Yep, I was out of frame. I was like over here. Okay. So the first book I want to talk about is The Shuddering. This is the 3rd book written by Ania Alborn. I am planning on reading all of her works. I did start with the first one, which is The Seed. I could have sworn The Shuddering was the 2nd book in her works, but it's actually the 3rd. The 2nd book is The Neighbor, which I will be starting on Monday with Ashley, so I am looking forward to starting that. The Shuddering was pretty good. I gave this one a 4-star. It's about 5 friends who decide to have a last hurrah in the countryside. I think they're in Colorado. The 2 main characters are Jane and Ryan. They are twins, and they are pretty well off. The mom and dad broke up when they were, I think, teenagers. And the dad has decided to marry this really young girl. I mean, that's such a cliche, right? But he decides to marry this really young girl, and he's getting rid of his property from when the kids were little. So there's this big mansion / cabin in the woods that Ryan and Jane grew up going to every winter. They would go skiing and so forth and so on. And the father has finally sold the cabin. So Ryan decides he's going to bring all of his friends, you know, to say goodbye to the cabin and have one last, like, fun party kind of thing. Now, the deal was Ryan was going to invite their childhood friend Sawyer to the cabin, and Jane has been avoiding him since high school because they were boyfriend-girlfriend throughout high school, and then they broke up to go to college, and Jane has never gotten over Sawyer, and vice versa. He's never gotten over her, but since then Jane has married and divorced, and and Sawyer is actually has a girlfriend, and they're like talking about it. So I think they're fiancés at this point in time. So yeah, Sawyer comes to the cabin and brings April, his girlfriend, which makes everything super awkward. And Jane was worried about going to the cabin with just her brother, so she brings her best friend, Lauren. So those are the 5 characters of the story. Lauren and Jane have been friends for a really long time. They're very adventurous. Sawyer and Ryan have been best friends since they were like little kids. I think that said they were 10 or something. And April's the oddball out. She's not interested in making friends. She's not interested in skiing or being a part of the others. And so she makes it really difficult for the entire household. They all feel awkward around her. But that's not the only thing that this book is about. It's about snow monsters. And when I say snow monsters, I mean like 12, 13 foot skinny alien-like creatures that only come out when it snows or when it's winter time. And our monsters are starving. And that's all I want to say about the book, because I don't want to give anything away. Just know that you're going into a story that is set in the Colorado wilderness in a cabin/mansion, that there's 5 young people or 5 mid-20-somethings. They've never dealt with anything that is supernatural before, and we all know what it's like, or not, we don't know what it's like, but we all have seen movies or read books where they have no clue what's going on and they have to improvise. And then, of course, like I said, we have the snow monsters. So if you are interested in a nice spooky read for fall and winter, The Shuddering would be your best bet. This one was pretty creepy. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I want to talk about is J.B. Lovett's collection of short stories called The Urntold Tales. When I first read this, I didn't see that it said Urn, but I wasn't in camera. But I really like that. I think it's super funny that it says Urntold Tales. This is 12 short stories, and JB contacted me on my email last year, and I feel bad because he sent it to me last year and I did not read it right away. It took me a whole year to read this, and like I said in my email to JB, I do apologize for taking forever to read it. It's very, very short, as you guys can see, and again, it's 12 short stories. There are 4 or 5 really good ones, but when it comes to short stories, not all of them are going to appeal to every reader. Some people think certain things are interesting or scary, and then some things aren't. Everybody has their own preference. I really did enjoy the first one in this story, which I'm going to talk about, and that is, I think it's called Tooth Fairy in all her forms. And when it starts out, it feels like our author is in the middle of teaching a class, and it was so funny because I thought, oh, is this like the intro to the whole book? Like, are we going to get JB's like he's talking and say like a bookstore, like he's going over his book or something like that. That's what it sounded like when I was reading it. It felt like it was a real person talking about tooth fairies, and I just had finished watching the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz. They have a really like cheesy documentary on Netflix that I watched last month, and in that documentary it talks about how Alvin Schwartz found all of his scary stories from the actual library. Like, he went and researched for, you know, many months on all of these different kinds of myths or legends or scary stories from around the world. And if you go back into his books, there on the very back of the book, it explains where each story came from. So that is what reminded me of the story about the tooth fairy. I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be just like Alvin Schwartz. We're going to learn a whole bunch of information about how the tooth fairy came to be. And the twist at the end really got me. I really enjoyed that story. And like I said, 5 out of 12 were pretty good. Like, I really wanted it to be expanded on and maybe have a full-fleshed novella or novel with that that particular topic. The other ones were just okay. Some of them were really weird. There's this one called The Milkshake Man, where these two best friends go to this like cafe, or this I don't know if it's like in our time. I'm just going to call it a cafe. And they're drinking milkshakes, and that's like their thing. Like, they always go into that cafe every, say, Thursday at 5 o'clock. And they've been going for years, and they've never seen this man sitting in there. And one day they go and they notice this old man. He keeps looking at them and giving them like weird looks. And each week it seems like that old man is getting closer and closer. And finally, one of the guys is all like, I swear that old man keeps getting closer to us. I don't like it. I think he should leave. Oh my God. I'm like, not in frame again. So yeah, so they're talking about how they are weirded out by this old man, and then he starts talking about milkshakes, and then he has them go to his house, and then the drama happens. And I thought it was just okay. Like, it was more weird than like creepy or scary. But there was a lot like that. Like the spin man was weird too. But I did enjoy this. I think I gave it 3.5 stars because I didn't like all of them. It's definitely middle of the road because I am such a horror fan. I've read lots of things, but I can say that the stories in here are definitely new. Something I've never heard before, so I did enjoy it. The next book that I want to talk about is the sequel to Gwendy's Button Box, written by Richard Chizmar and Stephen King. This is the sequel, like I said, and I bought this from Cemetery Dance for, I don't know, like $25. I was really excited because it is a signed copy by Richard Chizmar. Now, Stephen King has his foreword in here. Why? Why did they do that? I can't wait to move. It's like little kids are driving around here, making tons and tons of noise. And my eyeballs keep wanting to pop off. Okay, where was I? Richard Chizmar. Okay, so the first one's written by Stephen King. The second one has a foreword by Stephen King, but he actually doesn't help write this story. Richard does it all on his own. And the, how do I want to say it? Richard does a good job when it comes to finding King's voice. He was able to, get it very similar to the first book. He knows the characters from Castle Rock and where everything is located. Richard Chizmar knows all about Castle Rock, Maine. And so it flows well. I liked how it went back and referenced certain cops that used to work in Castle Rock or other people that live in the community. We get like those kinds of people from previous stories from Castle Rock itself. And if you guys don't read Stephen King, Castle Rock is... I've been doing this whole thing just looking down at the floor. Oh my god. Okay. Castle Rock is Stephen King's fantasy town in Maine. So it's not real. It's a fabricated town that he created, but the majority of his books are written in or around Maine and in or around Castle Rock. So I really like that. That's really cool. Anyways, back to the book. I gave this one, I believe, 3.5 stars as well. And the reason why that is because this says it's Gwendy's magic feather, and the feather really only shows up in the story like twice. It's not really the most important thing in the story, so it's weird to have it as the title. And not only that, but it doesn't really do anything in the story either. So I was confused about the title itself. Also, the pacing is a lot different than the first book, even though that the chapters are short, and the big font on the chapters, as you can see, this is chapter 11. The giant chapter font makes you feel like you're flying through the book because you really pay attention to each chapter that you're on. So I really like that as like an allusion to going through the book quickly. However, the pace of the story was so slow. I just couldn't really get into it, and because of that, it took me months and months and months. I believe I started this book back in March. It took me that long to finish it. And it's not that long. It's under 300 pages, I think. Oh, I lied. It's 328 pages. That's not too long, and that's only a little bit longer than the first book. I just feel like it was a slower pace and not a lot of stuff happens. The first book was very interesting because we had just learned how Gwendy got the button box and who the man was with the weird bowler hat, and the mystery and paranoia and obsession with the button box. That's what drew me in. I mean, that was something that I've never seen before, and it was very like unique storyline. I really liked the fact that there was all those buttons and Gwendy had to be good and not succumb to temptation to push one of the buttons to see what would happen. But in this book, it doesn't do that. Like, there's no mystery. We meet Gwendy in this book. She is in her early 30s. She's a congresswoman, and the setting is around Christmas time. So Gwendy's husband is a reporter, and I think he's in South America somewhere. He's on an assignment, and so he's supposed to be covering that, but he promises that he'll be back before Christmas. And so Gwendy goes back to Castle Rock. She has a condo there, I think, and she sits there and visits with her mom and dad. And during that time, there is a murder, and so there's like a murder investigation going around, but it's not touched on that much. And I mean, even though that the murder investigation is it's what am I trying to say? It's like solved in the story. It's very anticlimactic. It's just, I don't know what this book is for. You don't need to read it. If you liked Gwendy's button box, I would just keep it at that. This didn't have to be a sequel. If you're interested in completing series, like you can't start one and not finish everything that's in that series, then go ahead and pick it up. But it really doesn't add anything to the first book. Not really. I think the ending ties it together well, but other than that, it it fell a little flat for me. I thought it was just mediocre. And so I gave it a 3.5 star. I feel bad because I really, really liked the first one. I gave the first one 5 stars. But I'm not going to get rid of this one because 1, it's signed, and 2, now I have the duology, this set, so I don't want to get rid of it. All right. The next book that I read is called The Spider and the Fly. I believe the words underneath is reporter, serial killer, and the meaning of murder. I think that's what the whole title is called. And this is by Claudia Rowe. I buddy read this with my friend Ashley, and we were really on a high from reading I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, which is about the Golden State Killer. Now, that book was superb. It was executed just phenomenally. Everything was right about it. She spent so much time interviewing all of the detectives that were a part of this case for the last 40 years. She got close with the victims so we could get a real first-hand look at the situation at hand. And she talked to many, many civil detectives, like people who go out of their way to try to solve cases on their own as civilians, and then maybe they tip the police off later on down the road when they feel like they've gotten a good clue. So Michelle went through all of those things and really wrote an amazing nonfiction true crime book, but also sprinkled in a little bit of her own, life, which is great. So we went from this, apex, the top true crime you could ever read, and then we went to the lowest. And I feel bad because, Claudia Rowe isn't a bad writer. I thought that when she did write, it was very poetic and whimsical, and there were many times in the book where I thought, if this was just a fiction story, if she was just writing a murder mystery or a thriller, this would be awesome. But it's not. It's actually something that she went through. And not only that, but if I were to break this book up in percentages, this would be 75%. 75% of it is a memoir. So it's about the reporter, about Claudia Rowe, about how she felt that she didn't have a very good upbringing. Her parents were, I don't know. I was so bored to tears with her home life and the way she tried to constantly compare herself to the serial killer in this book, which is Kendall Francois. She kept comparing her upbringing to his when that's not even close to being possible, because he grew up neglected and, oops, I'm totally walking away. He grew up neglected and lived in a home that was it was a hoarder house. And so just to have Claudia put herself on the same wavelength as Kendall is really annoying. But yeah, it was 75% about her. Oop, there we go. Let's just put that there. Yes. 75% of this book is about her. And then we have 20% of the book, which is about Kendall. And then we have 5% of the book is actually understanding the meaning of murder. It was just so flimsy. I'm giving this 2.5 stars. If this was told to the public as being a memoir of a reporter who interviewed a serial killer, that would have been different. But that's not what this is pushed as. It's pushed as a true crime book, and it was just not that good. It wasn't that good. I was really sad. Again, I was infuriated at the fact that Claudia kept comparing herself to a black man who was living in white suburbia, who lived in a home where his parents didn't love each other. It was a hoarder's house. It was covered in trash and other like old food. It was so gross walking in there, and it smelled to high heaven. And so not Francois, his name's Kendall. So Kendall ended up killing 8 women, and they were all prostitutes, and he was hiding them in his attic and basement, and they were decomposing in his house, and the parents didn't say anything, and his little sister didn't say anything. They just thought, oh, you know, we live in this disgusting house, it's probably something, maybe an animal died in the walls or whatever. Like, that is interesting to me. Kendall and why he chose to strangle 8 prostitutes is interesting to me. Knowing how Claudia and her boyfriend Derek don't get along has nothing to do with the killer. So, like I said, if you guys are looking for a nonfiction true crime book about serial killers, this is not one of them. It's about a reporter. All right. The next book that I read was Broken Monsters by Lauren Bukes, and I was supposed to buddy read this with Ashley at the beginning of the month. When she was about 60 pages in, she decided that this wasn't something that she would be interested in reading, and so she put it down, and that's when we started the Shuddering, and so I finished the book by myself. It has a lot of characters. There's like 12 characters in this book, and there's like 4 different points of view going on with their own, you know, clique of people that you have to keep track of, like their friends and so forth. So I want to say the first 100 pages, I didn't like this book. And I never DNF books, but I was thinking this is the reason why Ashley didn't want to finish it. It is so like hard to follow, and it's boring, and I want to get to the good part. The good part is the fact that this is a murder mystery. We're trying to figure out who the killer is throughout the entire book, but all these different groups of people are in the mix, and then they all end up coming together towards the end, and then, you know, we see how they all intertwine. But at the beginning, I just couldn't get it. So the characters, the 4 main points of view in this story is Gabby. What is her last name? Vildara? No, am I completely wrong? Versado. Haha, that's it. The main character is Gabby Versado, and she is a murder detective. Her daughter is the other point of view in the story, and then her daughter has a best friend, Cass, that they hang out together. What is the daughter's name? Layla. So it's Gabby's the main character, then her daughter Layla and her best friend Cass, and then what they do throughout the book. And then we have a man called TK, who is a black man who has been living on the streets. So he's kind of homeless, but not, and he dabbles in a whole bunch of different like side jobs to, you know, continue to eat and survive. But he mostly kind of lives on the streets. And then he has his best friend Ramon, and then Ramon has a girlfriend, and so forth. And then there's 5 main points of view. The 4th one is about this guy called Johnny. I think it's Junie or Joni. He's in Detroit. This whole book takes place in Detroit. He's in Detroit. He used to live in New York, I think. He couldn't hack it as a journalist down there, and so he's up in Detroit, and he's trying to like find himself, and then he meets this girl, I don't know what her name is right now, but she's a DJ, and he really likes her, and she's helping him, like, you know, get out of his shell. And so instead of being like a written journalist, he's now vlogging, and he's coming up with this whole art scene kind of thing that he's going to go over in Detroit, and how the graffiti is art, and why did they have the collapse, and so forth. So we have to deal with all of his story. And then the very last part of the book, the last point of view, the fifth point of view, is Clayton Broom, who is an artist. We find out at the very beginning that there's something off with him. The people that talk to him from his past say, are you doing better? Because last time you were talking weird, like there was all these weird things that you were talking about. So we know that he has some kind of mental health issue, maybe schizophrenia, maybe he's delusional, maybe he's bipolar, or we don't know what his problem is, but he does talk to himself, and he does have this different personality at times. So those are the 5 main points of view in the story. And like I said, you go through each story and they all intertwine. They all intertwine towards the middle, and then the end makes perfect sense. I really enjoyed this book. I didn't think I was going to like it because, like I said at the beginning, I couldn't follow all the stories, and I don't like watching movies like this where they all come together at the end. It annoys me because you'll end up being in love with one part of the story. You'll want that story to happen more often than the rest of the people, and that never makes it makes me like come out of the movie, and it kind of did that here in this book as well, because I was more interested in Gabby's tale, wherein she's working with the detectives to figure out who killed the boy under the bridge. I wanted to know who the killer was. I wanted to go and follow Gabby. And I definitely didn't like listening to her daughter's point of view, because teens drive me crazy sometimes. I mean, I have 2 of them. And I just didn't like Layla. She's not a good character. Her friend's even worse. And they're both dicks to their parents. And so it's just like, I didn't want to read about that. And then I didn't care about TK or the journalist guy. And then I was like very fascinated with Clayton Broom. So, like I said, I did give this book about, I think, a 4. I think I gave this a 4-star. I really, really did enjoy reading it, and it makes me want to pick up the other book I have by her, which is The Shining Girls. I want to pick up that one next because I did enjoy her writing. It was really, really good. And if you've never read this book before, but you like Stephen King, this is kind of up your alley. And if you don't know what I mean, if you're an avid Stephen King constant reader, you'll know that his endings to his books, sometimes it's like an A-. You know, like his book is an A+ all the way, and then you have that little tiny portion of the ending of the book and you're like, what? But you come to terms with it. You're like, well, it's Stephen King. That's how I felt when it came to this book. It was like you got up to that climax and you're like, oh, what? So that's why I didn't give it a full 5-star. 1, because I couldn't get it at the beginning, and 2, because that ending was like, it was satisfying yet what? So anyways, really enjoyed. Definitely recommend. All right, I have 3 more books. The next one that I read was Elf. I got this from Quark Books. They asked if I wanted the next pop classic that they make, and I said, oh my gosh, Elf is one of my favorite Christmas movies. That and Home Alone 1 and 2. And you guys have already seen that I have Home Alone 2 in this pop classics, and so I definitely wanted to to get the Elf one. So inside, I mean, it's just like the movie. If you guys are if you guys like the movie. It just talks about Buddy and his life as an elf in the North Pole, and then his time in New York meeting his real dad and saving Christmas. I really, really like the movie Elf. I think Will Ferrell is hilarious in almost anything he does. And so, thank you again to Quark for sending me that picture book. I'm going to cherish it forever. I love it so much. And once I get like a nice house and we like decorate, then I can like bring out these Christmas books, you know, and put it on the coffee table. It'll be like a cute little seasonal thing. Yeah. Anyways, the second to last book that I finally completed. I think I started this last year. I swear to God, I started it like in November or December of last year and only have now finished it. I read this all out loud to my children. This is the second book in the Harry Potter series, Chamber of Secrets, and this is the illustrated edition. They are... let me find a page. Like, ooh, the artwork. Can you see it? Can you see it? Oh my God, Dobie is so cute. Yes, I really, 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 ooh, let me get back in frame. Let me push my eyeball back in. I really, really love these illustrated editions, and I've read Harry Potter to my children since they've been like babies, like since they were 4 or maybe 4 or 5. I started reading to the kids the Harry Potter books, but from the hardcovers. And I think we got to books 5 or 6, I can't remember. And then we stopped. I never continued the story, which I'm really bummed about. And so I decided, you know what, let me just go back and I'll reread all of the Harry Potter books to my children from the illustrated edition. I love Harry Potter so much. And of course, this is a 5-star read. This is my 3rd time reading the Chamber of Secrets. And I just love these books. There's nothing else I can say about it. I just love these books. All right. Now, I'm going to scooch a little bit over and I guess that's okay. And right here, I'm going to post the book cover to the last book that I read in the month of October. Now, this one was a spur of the moment kind of thing. I don't know why I decided to look through my Kindle, like you know, on my phone. I was like, oh, I want to look through the books on my phone. And this has been sitting on my virtual shelf for 5 years, maybe. It's by Marie Hall, and it's called the Kingdom series. Now, the Kingdom series was for free way back in like 2015. And so I immediately downloaded it because, hey, 1, free books are awesome, and 2, I'm a sucker for Alice in Wonderland retellings. And so the first book in this trilogy or series is Mad as a Hatter. And P.S., by the way, this is erotica. Yeah, I forgot that it was that when I started the books. I was like, what is going on? And let me tell you, like I said, I've never read Marie Hall before. This was so bizarre. I don't think I'm the right audience for, I don't think I'm the right audience for erotica because I just nitpick at the words choices that they use, like throbbing, the sex. Like instead of saying, you know, the vagina, they're like the sex. I'm like, what? Why do you call it that? I hate that word. Yeah, and then it's like throbbing and there's, like I said, way more adjectives out there that can describe things, and it was just poorly written. I could not stand Mad as a Hatter, or yeah, Mad as a Hatter. And I didn't even talk about, oh my god, these eyeballs, these buttons are making me lose my mind. I can't take it off for continuity's sake, so I have to leave it on. Oop, that's blood. Gross. You could make the story so much more sensual if you use the right words, but it was so hokey. Like, all the words she used was super hokey. I hate the word throbbing. I get what it's supposed to portray, but it just makes me feel like it's going like a cartoon. And yes, maybe it is actually doing that in real life, but I can't get the cartoon action out of my mind, and so it makes the whole experience of reading this, you know, sensual portion of the book, it makes it seem like hokey, and it pulls me out of the situation. So with that being said, I don't like erotica. It's not because I'm a prude, it's just because it's just poorly written. Okay, so Mad the Hatter, it's about, I'm talking about it, but I keep missing the point of the story. So, what this story is about a fairy godmother named Danica, and she is in charge, or she is the fairy godmother to all these bad boys from Kingdom. So we have Hook, we have the Mad Hatter, we have the Genie, we have Wolf from Red Riding Hood, and we have Gerard. Now, I'll tell you about Gerard in a second. So the first book, like I said, is Mad as a Hatter, and this is about Danica having to find the Hatter's one true love in order for him to not, like, die in the fairy tale way. He'll lose his mind and he'll never be able to come back, and so it's her job to find his soulmate. Now, everybody knows it's Alice, but she's been for decades and who knows how long, maybe eras, maybe it's been like hundreds and hundreds of years, she's been searching for his Alice, and she can't find her until she goes to Hawaii, which I thought was super funny. She goes to Hawaii and she finds Alice as a owner of a small bakery, and she's, I think, Japanese. Yeah, she's an Asian Alice living in Hawaii, and that is the Alice of Mad as a Hatter. I really liked that she was, you know, it was diverse. It wasn't just like our typical blonde-haired white girl. And even the Asian Alice from the book references that, going, saying, I can't be that Alice because I don't have blonde hair or white skin. And so I really like that aspect. By the way, I guess Marie Hall is from Hawaii, or actually lives in Hawaii. At least that's what the back of the book says. So yeah, I gave that book 3 stars. I think all of the books in this series is about 150 to 200 pages each. And then, so like I said, mine is a collection of all 3. So I just kept reading until I reached the end. I don't know why I keep stepping out of camera. I bet that's so annoying on your guys' end. I'm sorry. So yeah, the next book is called Gerard and Beauty, or Gerard's Beauty. That's it. So Danica has found her first bad boy's mate, and now she's working on Gerard. And if you're asking who is Gerard, that is a big, sad part in Gerard's life where he was in love with Belle from Beauty and the Beast, but she is a whore, and even though Gerard and Belle were a thing, he wanted to marry her. She left to go with the Beast because he was rich and Gerard wasn't. And so, yeah. So Gerard has baggage, and he doesn't want to meet anybody new. No one is going to be what Belle was to him, even though he hates her for leaving him. That was still like his love. And so Danica has to find his mate, and that one was a lot better because there was no like hanky-panky for 30 days because he was like magically castrated, where he couldn't fulfill. I guess it's castrated, like, but it's not like his thing was gone. He could still use it, but he couldn't use it for 30 days, and that made his mate and him really bond before anything got, weird. So yeah, 30 days they really got to know each other and know why they wanted to do the next thing in their relationship. God, I do sound like a prude. I'm sorry. You don't have to be in love to do the thing, but it's always nice. And then the third one was about Red Riding Hood and the wolf, and again, that one didn't have a lot of hanky-panky in it. I liked that one the most because it had the love story was a building up. So our main character and his mate, they had to really communicate and trust each other before they actually started to love each other. There was action and fighting in that one. There were bad guys and twists and turns, and it gave me more world building, and all the characters that I had met since Mad as a Hatter, they all really like show up in the third book, and so it's more of a well-rounded, well-defined world, and the characters really flourish and grow, and I really enjoyed that. So it went from Mad as a Hatter being really awful erotica to what was it? Wolf and His Red, or The Red and Her Wolf. I can't remember what the title is. But this one had everything that you would want in it. And so I'm giving that one a 5-star. I really did enjoy that. That was a good romance that I read, and I don't read romance very often. So yes, those were all of the books that I read in the month of October, the 8 books that I read. Please let me know down below what you read in October. Let me know if you have read any of these books. What did you think about them? Have I persuaded you to test these out? Because I'm telling you, some of them are really good. And by the way, the Kingdom series, there are more books after that. I will be buying the 4th and 5th books because that is the Genie and I think Hook. I do believe there are another like 4 or 5 stories, and then there is a spin-off of the series, and then it's all of the princesses, and like they have to find their mates. Yeah, so if you guys are interested in an adult retelling of fairy tale creatures, or yeah, fairy tale creatures that we learned growing up, you could check it out. Again, all of my Goodreads reviews will be down below. I am all over the place. I swear it's the eyeballs. I'm sorry if I kept walking out of frame. I'm sorry if this is such a stupid costume. I tried. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend, and I hope you guys have a good week next week, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching.